Okay then, yeah, I'm Domanic Jones. I'm a solution engineer at Auth0, which is now owned by Okta. But essentially it's the technical, SIAM, outward-facing-y bit of the company. We were bought like a year and a half ago. I've been there for about 2 years. And basically, we talk about the great balancing act. I had to think up some kind of title that would make people come and watch, and it worked for some people, evidently not for everyone. But yeah, I think it's just a chance for us to talk about the sort of things that you're trying to do with the way that you're interacting with your consumers, your customers, or your employees, and basically to help make it a bit easier. I'll just ask now then, what sort of industries are you guys all in? Are you all in finance or like other stuff as well? Well, what else? Shout out. Insurance. Insurance.
Open banking.
Open banking. Okay then, yeah, it is all. Okay, yeah, IT. Yeah, so everything sounds quite money related. There's obviously more to it than that, but yeah, also IT. So yeah, I'll try and skew it a bit and try and think of it in those terms. I know that open banking comes up a lot, but essentially the way that this wraps in, it kind of dances in and around and includes it here and there as well. So it should all be quite relevant. But yeah, let's go ahead. So we've noticed kind of like 4 digital government-y type trends, but essentially it's the same for everybody else as well. But really, it tends to be multi-channel engagement. So everybody is expecting to be able to access their services how they feel like doing it at that time. If they've got their phone in their pocket, they want to be able to do it from their phone. If they're sitting in front of their TV, they want the smart TV to be able to do it. They've got a laptop. Whatever it is you've got, you need it to work. Fancy fruit, all that sort of stuff. Also, the idea of build once, use many. Nobody wants to have to rebuild, reinvent the wheel again and again and again. People have been looking at doing this kind of thing for, well, since before I started doing IT when I was still in school. So it's nothing flash, but you see more and more of it now. And now that it's getting more and more possible and easier to do so. Another one is looking towards data sharing. So where you guys were speaking about like open banking, the fact that you should be able to share that data with people that are qualified to have access to it and that are authorized, authenticated, it's kind of being able to make it so that the data that you're collecting and the data that other people are collecting, you should be able to use in some way. It's just making sure that we're not doing the same thing on our behalf when we can go and buy it from somebody else. If everybody's able to feed off each other, you're able to kind of like work much more efficiently. And then also the boring obvious one, like remote working. Everyone's able to, internet's getting faster now, Zoom is literally everywhere. Everybody was locked in for the last 2 years. So anybody that was for the last 8 years going, oh, should we go home? Should we allow people to remote work? It was literally proven in the last 2 years that, well, I think 70% of people are actually more productive from home, and then it's cheaper. You don't need to pay for your office. You don't need to buy them sandwiches and stuff like that in the office. Just send them home. Let them actually do the work rather than traveling and go back home. So, like, quite obviously, this isn't unexpected, but I just kind of wanted to share a bit of a story. It's like over-engineered, because I get carried away with slides. But yeah, please, well, yeah, get involved. So like, we moved house recently, and we wanted to move somewhere bigger, and it needed to have a garage, mainly because I have loads of bikes, and my girlfriend, now I don't live on my own, she was like, that needs to go in the garage, you're not keeping that in the living room anymore, because that's where they were. They were just in the corner, upside down. So like, well, upside down keeps the floor clean, doesn't it? The wheels aren't touching it. So when we moved house, we moved all the most important things straight away. First one, internet. No one cares about electricity, gas, all that stuff. That's on. Internet, the most important thing, get that working first. Then we decided to move the bills over, car insurance, all that sort of stuff. But then we wanted to register for the doctors. We've got a daughter now, so it wasn't just us this time. So I had to go and register, but then there's also my partner and also my daughter, who's like, well, she was 2 when I wrote this, but yeah, she's 3 now. So we went over to the doctors, and the usual, oh, I'd like to register, please. It's 2022, but I was still given 3 paper forms. All our things are digital, our records, but they wanted paper forms. Clara can't write, so I had 2 forms to fill in. Katie had 1. So once you've filled in all those forms, given them back, the doctor said to us, oh, there's an app. You can do all this stuff online as well. You can register for appointments, all that kind of stuff. And so we were like, well, obviously we want to do this, yeah? Can we do that, please? Okay, well, you need to fill in a form for that. And there's this special, long, awkward, fiddly code that if you copy it in wrong, we'll have to issue a new one because of the way our security works. It's a pain. We do it on purpose. I'm sure that's what they were thinking. But obviously, Clara can't write. So I've got 4 films to fill in now. Katie's got 2. And I'm sitting here filling in these forms, handing them back to the doctor. The doctor takes them all off me, the usual. And then we go onto the app to kind of do the clever bit that kind of pairs everything together so we can do all this smart stuff. And when we're filling it in, children aren't allowed their own account. So your daughter has to belong to someone, but she can only belong to one of us. So I'm not allowed to register for appointments, but Katie can. But when Katie goes back to work, and I'm still on maternity with the new one, I need to borrow Katie's phone in order to do some stuff, but children can't actually do this bit on. And it's just like a mess. It's a mess, it's ridiculous. Everyone's confused, and Clara's getting annoyed because we were supposed to be going to the park. So it's kind of like, it goes on to this, kind of, when digital transformation is done right, it's like a caterpillar turned into a butterfly, but when it's done wrong, you just end up with a really fast caterpillar. And it's kind of, this is what they ended up with. They're like, oh, we've got all this cool digital stuff. Everything's digital, it's magic, it's amazing, all that. But yeah, you've got 15 forms to fill in now rather than 1, and it actually only kind of works. I mean, there you go. He's learned from his mistakes, he'll be fine. That's the thing. So it's kind of, yeah, when people are deciding to try and digitize their platform, are they digitizing it, or are they just taking an analog form and putting it on the internet? It's like we're still going in, filling in the same forms, doing the same stuff, carrying it around. We just email it instead, rather than taking it in by hand. And are we actually gaining anything? So what I've got is like a statistic, because people like doing these things. But basically 51%, a survey was carried out a few years ago, and it asked people what the most important thing was when they looked at services that they were going to sign up for. And over half of them, just over half, said that the most important thing was convenience and ease of access. The reason that stood out to me is because this was in like a healthcare setting. So that means when there were things on the list like quality of care, people that were going to get an arm amputated said, I'll get it done anywhere, provided it's at the end of my street, not provided that the doctor is really good at it. And it was weird that people put that high in their priority list for something as important as this. So that means when we're looking at stuff like money and finance, or buying, I don't know, a pair of trainers on Amazon or whatever, like convenience really is coming first, and people are sacrificing all sorts in order for something to be easy. I think like before, I was looking for something for my daughter's bike, and like I went online, I found it cheap somewhere else, but they wanted me to fill in a massive form. So I just went on Amazon and ordered it for next day delivery, because I'm not filling in this form because it's a pain. So it's kind of, if people are taking these sort of shortcuts and literally paying out more money when I'm the stingiest person alive, it's like, it's true that they're going to do this for literally everything else as well. So along with this, we need to remember that there's kind of more than just the convenience. There are a bunch of things. So people care a lot about security. They care a lot about privacy, but convenience is also right up there as well. So what I want to do, rather than me just kind of feed it all, is kind of have a think about what each of these mean to everybody, and kind of what sort of things that you and your business are doing to kind of help increase this aspect of your service. So like, what do you guys think of when you think of security? This is me trying to be like interactive and all that now. So yeah, what do you think of, what sort of stuff? What's security?
Payment information.
Okay.
Details or something like that shouldn't be leaked outside.
Okay then. So making sure that you're not leaking people's information itself, yeah? What other sort of stuff? What do you think of when you think of security? I'll wait for one more and then I'll keep going. Just no pressure. Theft. Yeah, so people being able to open your front door on your house and steal something. So it's kind of, the way that I've tried to think of it, because we've got security and we've got privacy, is that security is protection of the data itself and actually making sure that people can't get into your accounts. So it's kind of on top of privacy, which is something that I see as slightly different. Security is literally kind of like the lock on the door. Is it a password? Is it a fingerprint? Is it a special action that you need to do to get into this account? Is it your voice? All that kind of stuff. It's making sure that you're protecting access to your data and your services. So what are some obvious ways that people use on websites, in banks, in shops and stuff like that to kind of improve the security of the services that they're providing? Give me some examples. What do you guys do to improve security and say, oh, yeah, we're secure because we ... What's an example? 2FA, yeah. Strong passwords. What do you mean by strong passwords? Well, yeah. So I had another one where we were speaking about strong passwords, and the usual where people kind of go into the whole, if there's a password, it's secure. If there's no password, it's not secure. And like all the, oh, you need a special character, you need numbers, you need a capital letter, password 123 exclamation mark, all that sort of stuff. But then I think a bunch of studies have been carried out. When people were guessing passwords by hand, it made sense to put in random characters, but a computer does not care if it's a pound sign or a dollar and all that sort of stuff. It's just noughts and ones. So when it's brute forcing its way through, none of that stuff matters. The only thing that matters is size. So size matters with passwords. So remember, as long as possible, a password that's twice as long, I think, takes 1 trillion years instead of something that takes like 15 seconds for a computer. But as we start to get towards all this quantum computing stuff, it's like passwords are going to be dead anyway. So like, yeah, what else? I've got stronger passwords, there's one on here. What other kind of things people look at to help make sure they can't get into your account? Biometrics, yeah. What other sort of stuff? So like, on top of biometrics, when you start to look at face recognition, you've got the new WebAuthn. So you've got the roaming authenticators, and you've also got like the platform ones. So either like a WebAuthn key, that I've got one in this little bag that I always lose, so it's a bit pointless for me. Or also your facial recognition on your phone and the touch bar on this Mac. Things like intelligent protection. So how many times have you gone onto a site and it said, something's up with what you're doing, I need you to do a capture. So it's like those sort of things when we're getting our bot detection. So it's looking for something unnatural that's happening. So either the mouse moved too quickly or you typed a query in a strange way that seemed a bit robotic. And what happens with me, because I trained myself to use the internet when Google first started and you had to give stupid queries, you couldn't just ask a question. Very often it's like, are you a robot? That was a weird thing to say. So it's kind of making sure that you're introducing those things, but only when they're necessary, not all the time. It's like someone also said 2FA. It's all the things. I think people think of 2FA and they automatically think of like all those one-time passwords on those RSA little keys that kind of flick out of time if you're not quick enough or if you forget it. But there's more to it than that. Everything's moving on. And yeah, we'll try and speak a bit about that as well. But essentially, when we're thinking of security, the type of things that it ends up giving you is it means that your consumers are protected from attack. If they're protected from attacks and they think that their data is safe, well, they know that their data is safe with you guys, then you guys can be confident in your compliance. Like, GDPR is no joke. They're fining people stupid numbers for this stuff now. And it's kind of, they don't care who it is. I feel like a small little one-man band got done by it. Google got fined 100 million. It's like, no one's impervious to this anymore. And then also it means if you're not having to send people through, what's your password every time they pick up the phone, what's this, what's the other, it's like you're able to actually give people what they're after, you're gaining in new productivity. So like, I said we talk about the three, we're moving on to privacy now. So, another long, awkward silence. What do you guys think of when you think of privacy?
Personal data.
Okay, so your personal data being kept where it should be. Leaks of personal data, usual stuff, people leaving flashcards on trains and all that sort of stuff. Anything else?
Sharing what I've allowed them to share.
Sharing what you've allowed them to share, yes. Yes. So that comes up as well. So the way that I've tried to look at it is responsible control of your data. So the other one was just about stopping people getting to it full stop unless they have reason to. but this one is being able to control it as well. So how many sites do you go to where you see something that says, oh, do you want to sign up with Google or Facebook or whatever? And it's basically, that flow there is saying, Facebook, you've already got my data. I'm on Evans because I want to buy a new bike. Bike's on my brain. And I trust you to tell them what my home address is. So it's kind of knowing that somebody's going to give them the information that you want them to, but they're not going to give them the last time you went on holiday or different things that aren't necessary. So it's being able to kind of like, up to whatever resolution you want, being able to control what people can see. And when people actually have faith in this, it's going to make it a lot easier, because right now, I'm probably just like weirdly selective, but when things like, oh, do you want to sign up with Facebook? I just don't like Facebook. I don't trust them anymore now. But I still use it, but I don't like it being in absolutely everything, because when you go on a site, it's like, oh, you were looking at screwdrivers yesterday. Do you want a screwdriver? It's just, I still find it creepy. So like, one way that you do stuff like this is permission, so being able to share what you want, when you want, with who you want. So that's when you sign up and Facebook comes up and says, oh, this guy is going to know your password, your email address. They're not going to know your password. They'll know your first name, but they won't know your last name. It's all that sort of stuff where you can say this, this, and this, but not that. Other things that are coming up in browsers a lot are things like all the cookie restrictions. So the fact that it's not so easy for third-party cookies to kind of be shipped around between different services anymore. It used to be really easy, but now it's getting awkward. And obviously we know it's all because we used to use that for some of our systems. We've had to change a bunch of stuff internally to make stuff like that work. And obviously like legislation, like GDPR, Hyper, PCI, all that sort of stuff. If you make it illegal for people to do things, there's a percentage of people that will stop doing it because it's illegal. There's a bunch of others that won't, but then that's where you start to have to trust the body at some point to have some data, and then be able to kind of like hope that they're going to act in your best interest as you go forward. Because at the end of the day, like Google can always turn around and just dump everything and not care about what happens if they get fined, because they've got enough money to pay it, haven't they? So with privacy, when we're improving that, it means that people feel that they're able to share more, rather than thinking, oh, I'm going to hold that back. Maybe I don't want to tell people all of this stuff here. It makes people feel that it's something that they're able to share with somebody else. If you're able to do that, you get round the views of your customers. So like, I don't know, how is stuff like that useful within the industries that you guys work in? When people are sharing more information, what sort of stuff can you use it for to kind of help you provide a better service? What sort of stuff? Because if I just reel stuff off the top of my head, it's probably things that I'm making up. Like, let's have a think. If your bank knows that you've recently moved house, maybe they'll say, I know that your remortgage is coming up soon, so let's go and look at this because mortgages are cheaper with this type of thing in Birmingham, or something like that. I don't know, what other sort of things can they kind of infer from the extra information that you're giving out? If they know you've had a child, maybe they'll try and say you're a child accountant, stuff like that.
On health insurance, they share like the steps you're walking, health tests, that was good then adjust your premiums. If you're improving.
I feel like Vitality or something. When one of my friends signed up for that, I think they got given an iWatch or some. What are they called? An Apple Watch. Oh, it's like so out of touch. They got given like an Apple Watch, and it tracked their steps, and provided they did a certain amount of steps, it kept their premium at a certain level. And if they did more, they got like free memberships to all kinds of things. And it's kind of people giving up more information, but it means that you can, in some cases, provide them a better service. If you notice that their heart rate is going a lot higher than it used to, maybe you can be like, oh, come to the doctors, are you running from the police? I don't know, what's up, what's going on?
Similar with car insurance, there are insurance types where you have either use your phone or you have something measuring the behavior of the car. So if you have a dangerous behavior, your insurance will be more expensive. But if you're driving safe, then your insurance will be cheaper.
Yeah, all those, what are they called, like black box premiums? So like where you'd have one service potentially that goes and is able to kind of analyse what it is that you're actually doing in the car. Do you accelerate really hard? Do you brake really quickly? All that sort of stuff, and then go, all right, this guy's a lunatic. Raises premium. Oh, this one's pretty safe, lower it. all that kind of stuff. And then also it means that, yeah, employees are able to provide a better service. The fact that you're able to have this kind of rounder view of people that are using your services, you can offer them things that actually make sense for them, rather than going stuff like, oh, here's a new mortgage, when you know that they've been renting for the last 15 years and they have no plans to buy a house. So like the last one, I put it at the end, even though I said that more, over half of people think it's the most important thing. But what sort of things do you think of convenience? What does it make you think of?
Time saving.
Sorry?
Time saving.
Yeah, if things are quick.
Not having to fill the same data in over and over.
Yeah, being able to share information where it makes sense. So essentially, as all of that comes, when things are quick and they're easy and you're not having to repeat effort, all of that kind of wraps into the ease of access for what it is that you're providing. So like the things that people tend to think about are stuff like accessibility. So there's the obvious things that scream out to you when you think of accessibility, like if someone's blind, does a screen reader work on it? If somebody's deaf, are there sounds that they're going to need to access, or colourblind and stuff like that? But then also, there's things like device agnosticism. Does it only work on iPhone or Apple Watch, that presumably I only just know exists now? Or kind of different things like that. I think there's all stuff like, we spoke to a prospect who had a service that was going to be running in Africa in the desert. So is it something that's going to work when they're offline, when they need it to? Or do they need JavaScript? All these kind of things that people kind of just assume, oh, they're going to be on a Mac with a Retina display, but is it going to look horrible if they've got an old CRT monitor? All that sort of stuff is something that you need to think of in making sure that your services are able to be accessed by everybody. And in some cases, if they need to do it for legal reasons, because there's some there where you're allowed to late slide, but others where you're not being accessible and then you can get in trouble for it. And then just little things like WebAuthn. So WebAuthn, fingerprints, touchscreen, face recognition, all the new passkeys that are coming out, all this sort of stuff, that's giving people more and more control over their information and making it easier for them to share more information, but kind of feel safer with it at the same time. So yeah, when things are convenient, consumers keep coming back. That's when I decided I'm not going to go to this place, I'm going to go back to Amazon. They're expensive. I don't like Jeff Bezos, but it's so easy. I'll just buy it from you anyway, sorry. It means that things tend to convert more easily, rather than people having to sit there, the time it takes them to get out their card, go and find their PIN because they've never used it, everything's contactless now. All this stuff, it's like, it gives people more and more time to think, okay, do I actually want to do this? There's plenty of things where the cart just gets abandoned because you've had long enough to think about it, your wife's caught you, so, all right, I'm not buying that today. Or things like, it means that the employees can build better relationships when it's convenient and it's easy for people to share their information. You're able to have things like, oh, hi Dominic, last time you bought one of these, you probably want more printer ink or something. It's able to just kind of finish your sentences for you in a not annoying way, hopefully. So like, Auth0 kind of works on the premise that people have felt for a long time that you need to kind of have one or the other, and kind of as you improve security, you kind of need to sacrifice convenience. When you have things like, you need a super long password, now it's harder to remember. So I need to use a password manager, and then you get a password manager, but you need to remember the password for that, and now you need all your devices, you need to install it on everything to make sure it's shared and to make sure they're all up to date, and all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of, I feel like people have been forced to kind of compromise between one or the other, like, oh, we're secure, that's why we're a pain. We're always going to ask people for 2FA, or, oh no, it's really easy, but then everybody's paranoid of their accounts being hacked and all that sort of stuff. But really, as we go through, technology gets better, information gets better, and kind of more and more stuff is accessible on everyday devices. It kind of just proves that it really is a false choice. And it's kind of, as you get between all of these privacy, security, convenience, kind of that's where identity sits. It's kind of, who are you and what are you allowed to do? And then if I know that, it means that we're able to share more or less information with who makes sense, when it makes sense to do so. And it's kind of, that's kind of where you're aiming for. You're aiming to be everything to everybody. It's not always possible, but we like to make it as possible as possible. So it's kind of, everyone knows that everybody wants something to be convenient and easy, super secure, super available to everybody on the planet, all that sort of stuff. But I don't know, why is it like, do you guys have all these kind of things? Why is it that you don't tend to have it? Do you have conversations where it's like, it's too long to implement, I don't know, we haven't got time for it, there's other more important things, it doesn't make us money, so we're not doing it now. All that sort of stuff, things get kicked down the road. It's kind of when, I know we've had things where IT have turned around and said, well, are we able to implement kind of MFA? And it's been, well, the non-technical people don't really get it because we need to go and do all this sort of stuff. But I think sometimes it just sounds a bit overly complicated. It's like you'll go through, you'll build a platform, and then afterwards everybody thinks, okay, how do we secure it? And it's kind of, it's all about making sure that it's integrated from the beginning. And then as you go through, you've built it all, you've set up the latest security, all this sort of stuff, and then WebAuthn comes out. Now you need to go back through, reiterate everything and add fingerprinting to this, that, and the other. And it's kind of, it just feels like it's a massive faff. But when you're using kind of something that is like built from the ground up and has all this stuff in a central platform, it makes it that bit easier, or at least it can. So it's kind of, yeah, when it comes down to using identity as a service, it means that you're able to have like your customers kind of floating around, doing whatever they can and protected from like all the evils of the world trying to attack the woman in the floating bubble, all that. So it's kind of, what is it that you guys tend to look at when you're trying to balance some of these? What's an example of where you've tried to make something more convenient but you've had pushback from other bits in the business? Or have you been the one that's been pushing back against it? What are some examples? Let's have a think. Has anyone got anything that they've done at work when it's come down to trying to implement something that made it easier or more secure or a bit more private for your consumers?
I was just going to say that I guess there's always, you come at it from a technology perspective, right? You kind of got to have a business person or a commercial person relate to what you're trying to say to find a commercial reason to do it. So convenience, if I put my commercial hat on, would be a huge factor in bringing customers, conversion rates, all of those things, right? So I think as engineers, we can get what, should be able to get what we want. You've just got to find that advocate on the commercial side of the fence who gets that and drives that through. I'm thinking of just the company I'm in at the moment. A couple of years, I joined them 2 years ago, and they've written this sort of B2B application, but they'd written it for AWS, and no one had given any thought to multi-cloud, or just being agnostic to IDP and all that, and they couldn't have that conversation. And we've been able to have that conversation because I happen to wear both hats, so both product and technology. I was like, well, if we want to have a conversation that gives customers, our future potential customers, convenience, we've got to be able to say we're agnostic. We can deploy on whatever environment you're in. And fortunately, I wear both hats. But I think that's probably a key to technology. Engineering departments getting what they want, but I mean there's necessity for that. So getting the outcomes they're looking for, but having to get commercial buy-in is a faff sometimes, but it's key.
Yeah, so kind of, in my role as a solution engineer, it's basically our job to kind of do all that, kind of thinking about how you can almost use convenience as like the Trojan horse, almost, to get all the stuff that you're actually after, making kind of like your services easier to integrate and easier to kind of manage as you're going through. So the type of things where you turn around and say to someone, oh, we want a single user account, so we've got a 360 view of the customer. It's kind of, all of those points, in isolation don't mean a lot. It's like, so what if you know everything that they've done and all the services that you've used? But when you're able to turn it around to, if we know that, that means we can sell them more, therefore we make more money. That's when people start listening. So it's kind of, when you're able to twist it in and kind of show where almost the bottom line comes from, when you're able to help build these business cases, it makes it easier to sell it inside the rest of the company. So things like where you're thinking about being that bit more device agnostic, I know that sometimes it's a bit easy to just chuck it in the cloud, because then you don't even need to care about when people ask questions like, oh, does it work on Azure? It's like, it doesn't matter. Just point at this set of endpoints and it will just work. It'll work, trust me. It's scalable. It'll do all this cool stuff for you. But really, it's kind of being able to find what those little bits are. I feel like we were speaking to a bank in South Africa, and one of the problems that they had was the fact that everybody that accessed it typically accessed it from a mobile phone. And because they did it from a mobile phone, they used there's like a weird technical word for a phone number, like MSIDN or MSDIN number. One of those. Yeah, like they kept saying Misden, but it doesn't spell how they say it. And like, basically the problem with phone numbers is, because their phone numbers are short, they get recycled a lot. And when you're using that as a unique identifier for somebody's finance information, when they roll in their phone and get a new one, and the number gets recycled to Dave now instead of Emma, does that mean Dave's now got a way into your bank account because they've proven you they've got your phone number, they've got the text, all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of making sure that when we're thinking about how we can get more digital, that we're trying to make sure that we're future-proof off the bat. So it's kind of thinking ahead and making sure that when we're building stuff by hand, that we're buying in stuff where it makes sense and we're building stuff that makes sense. Because otherwise you kind of end up in a trap where you're spending all your time just trying to keep up, and it's difficult because all the time they're like, oh, this protocol's been hatched, you need to change to this, and now you spend all your time fighting fires rather than actually inventing new cool stuff for your customers to actually use and consume. So, yeah, that's what I had, but what I was going to do for the last like 15 minutes is potentially show you a bit of the platform, if that's something that's interesting. But I don't know, do you guys know of Auth0 Okta at all? Have you seen it? No? Yeah, yes and no. Okay then. Yeah, I'll do a quick run around, but I obviously don't know all these buttons. Ignore all that stuff. Let's find what I need. So basically what we have is a fake kind of travel website. So when people, well, we're starting to be able to go on holiday again now, but yeah, going to airports, doing all that sort of stuff, booking holidays. And basically it's just a way to show you what the platform looks like and the way that it integrates into the system. So really when it comes down to it, Auth0 is about centralizing all the identity and being able to federate out as and when makes sense. So rather than kind of having to either migrate everybody onto the platform, if you have customers that have their own identity, then federate it. If you have ones that don't, then don't allow them to kind of create their account on your behalf and inside of your system. So it's like a boring one. When I click login with the, oh, that's annoying. I know the things for this anyway.
You're not actually sharing, I would say.
I'm not, am I? Yeah, because it's really annoying. 1 minute, I'm going to change the way this shares. Are you seeing what I'm seeing potentially now? When it comes up? Oh, there you go. Okay then. Yeah, so we've got this site here. But anyway, yeah, let's go and sign in. So this is what Auth0 looks like on the front page when people are logging in. It's a boring, horrible green page, but I'll show you how you can mess with that later. So put in my username and password. It has things like you're able to sign in with social, you're able to sign in with your own Google account. It's got home realm discovery, all that obvious stuff that it really should have. But you're able to go and sign in, and go and have a look around the platform. I can go in, I can look at my profile, all that sort of stuff. But when we're talking about kind of convenience and adding friction where necessary, things like this, when I click billing, it goes, hold on, you're doing something sensitive. I don't want to just allow you to do this. And this is where you're able to do something where I can use a security key like a YubiKey, or I can go and pair it to the app that goes with this application on my phone, all of that sort of stuff. And basically the way it's driven behind is you go and pair it, and then it allows you to see things that are that bit more sensitive. So because, I don't know, do you guys like, I don't know, are you more technical people or more businessy? You like coders, or do you want to see anything like that, or would that look a bit intense and crazy? All right then. So what I wanted to show you is this. Where it comes through, you have something called rules. And what the rules allow you to do is add more information to a sign-in. So where people come in and they're signing in from a weird location, or they're signing in from a new device, you're able to say, hold on, I need to send you for MFA. So that's what happened there, because I clicked on a sensitive button. It asked me for MFA. Something else you can do is something called progressive profiling. So that's where you're able to ask them questions that kind of change the way that the website looks. So when we come up, by default, it advertises things like, oh, skiing holidays are cool, but if someone can't ski, then that's useless, and you're not going to show them anything that they think is actually interesting. If we log in now that I've turned that rule on, it's going to ask us, it comes in, and this time it notices that there's information that I haven't given it and it doesn't know yet. So I'm able to go and say, oh, okay, well, I actually like beach holidays with my family. So when I go through and I say something like this, it's able to come and customize my experience. So instead, it comes up and it says, oh, well, you can go to this beach, you can go to that beach. And that's just small things like, do you own a house? Okay, well, we're going to tell you about house insurance. If you've got a new car, we're going to tell you about like multi-car policies, all that kind of stuff. And the way that this goes and gets stored in the platform in the back end is inside of Auth0, we've got Andy Smith, the person I signed in as, and within the profile, you're able to see this extra information that it's actually gone and stored. And this is free-form JSON, so you can nest it, you can pair it to other accounts, you can go and say, oh, okay, well, I've actually got a Google account too, I want you to pull down information from there. So it's basically just making it so that there's a bunch of stuff that is plug and play, but then all the clever little bits that you want to do around the edge, you're able to go and either plug in using something like the marketplace, or you're able to customize in the platform. So one thing I said I'd show you is how you can kind of rebrand some of it to make it like look a tiny bit more flash. So we've bought this, but I'm Chewy, I'm actually a travel company. So if I want to make this a bit more interesting, I'm able to go off to get better at this. I'm used to having more than one screen for doing this. It's horrible on one. And go off, and I can change the logo, and then I can change the background of it as well, let's say. Let's see. Because it doesn't like that weird space. And then if I want to make it so that people can also sign in with some sort of social connection like Facebook or all this bunch of things here, half of these I've not heard of. But basically you can use things like Line, RenRen, Cosmos, there's tons. And if the one that you're looking for isn't in this list, which it probably is, you're able to go and create a custom one. So provided it's using something like OIDC or SAML or WSFed, all the usual suspects, you're able to go and implement it with this platform. So in this case, I'm going to go and turn on Google, just because it's a simple one to turn on. And then you basically just tell it. You say, Google, this is the information I want you to pull from their account, or to ask them to pull from their account. And then you go and turn it on for the particular application. So if you're a business that has tons of brands and tons of different sites and tons of services that you're actually offering, you're able to go and turn it on the Travel Zero consumer website. So now, when I go back and do the demo dancer, log out and log back in again, I've got my new sign in, it looks new, I've now got a Google button there, and you're able to sign in. It kind of gives you that different experience, and if you want to go wild and do something super crazy and super different, you're able to do that. So like one of our customers, Beauty Bay, I have them all lined up and ready to go. They've done that using the stuff out of the box. They just went and changed some of the page templates. So it's kind of, it gives you a lot of flexibility to do exactly what it is that you want to do. I think IKEA. IKEA uses as well in the back end. And that's another one where they're able to work throughout the world and they're just on public cloud and they've customized it in the way that they want it. So it's kind of, people don't want to have to build things from scratch. You want to plug it in, get 90%, and then do the rest with little bits of coding, plug in this, that, and the other around the edge. If people pretend that they can do everything in one go, they're lying, and it will never work. But I don't know, is there anything that anybody was hoping to see, or any questions, any insights, anything like that? Like, ask me with the last 10 minutes that we've got. There's so much more I could show you, but I'll be here forever.
So with that demo, you know, like you said, you want the beach holiday. How is that getting from Auth0 to your app? Is that through the job token? Or?
So it's a combination. So did I have that open still? No, I haven't. 1 minute. So the way that Auth0 works is, it works primarily on tokens, but you're able to get into the back end from using the management API. So everything that you saw in the user metadata, you can access it through this API that you can give out, that you can issue tokens for, or kind of API keys. And so you're able to go and say, oh, okay, I want to get this user's metadata, give me this, and you can use that information as makes sense. But what can make a lot more sense is for you to do it in this way instead. And it's giving me the awkward view, isn't it? It's not important. And it will give you this view. So as it goes through this flow, we go from left to right. You're presented with the universal login. So that's the bit where it's kind of got all the battle hardening, so bot detection, brute force password, credential stuffing, all that stuff. But as it goes through this flow, you get all these little plus signs, and they're the actions. And basically, that's where you can do things to the token before you send it back to the person trying to sign in. Something there is where you can say, okay, well, it's just a basic sign-in, so we'll send back the ID token. And the ID token, I want you to include their favorite color and their favorite type of holiday. And it will do that. If they then go and click something else, and you didn't include everything in the original token, you can either come and hit Auth0 to ask for more information, or it could have been included in the token in the first place. So it's kind of up to you how that information sits, and you could do what you want with it as it flows through there. So what some people do is something like, when people sign up and they sign in, it'll go and create a lead in Salesforce. So it'll go off Salesforce, go and create something, and it'll come back and it'll give them a token that says, Salesforce lead created, this is their Salesforce ID. So everything they're doing, you can track it in Salesforce and in here, or you can track it in something like Mixpanel or whatever makes sense. So yeah, it's kind of up to you, it's flexible that way. But yeah, people tend to do it through tokens. 1 minute, there was one more thing. When I was talking about checking people's credentials and being able to kind of like check documentation, stuff like that, like when people sign up for bank accounts, rather than the usual, oh, can you send us a photocopy of this, or can you come into a branch or whatever. You're able to use things out of our marketplace. So something that's in there is like on Friday, or it used to be in OneTrust and stuff like that. So that means you're able to do something like, on your phone, it literally comes up and says, give me a photo of your driving license. And it'll, on the fly, go and verify that it's a real document. And it'll help you create that account. So if you're having issues with kind of like spam accounts or people kind of DDoS attacks, all that sort of stuff, it slows it down. It means that only genuine accounts are being created. So that's something that tends to be important when it comes to finance or government type things. Because Facebook don't care if you're not real, but some people do. And just the usual stuff like it plugs into all your pipelines. So anything that you use behind, if you're using stuff like Terraform or whatever, what do I do? Deploy it. Okay, yeah, that's horrible. But like Terraform and all these kind of things, you can plug it into whatever you're using. So if you've got GitHub in the background, then you build it using Ant builds or Jenkins. That's how our demo systems are built. I literally just go there, and you can configure everything using code as well. So the fact that you can hit everything that I'm doing here over an API means you can script it. If you can script it, you can automate it. So it's kind of, all this can be done in this way, but often people go and automate it and put it into a proper build.
Do you enable digital signatures as well?
Do you do what, sorry?
Do you enable the ability to do, once you authenticate the person, you can do a digital signature?
So when you have so when I clicked the billing and it said that it wanted me to do some form of step-up authentication, what happens there is it can go and do like a device fingerprint almost. So it starts to trust this device, so it trusts its device's use of like the fingerprint or the face recognition. So you can get a digital fingerprint based on your browser or your device, but not necessarily based on you just yet. But stuff's coming with that, with around passkeys and all that sort of stuff. So you're going to get that on its way soon. That was well, don't tell anyone I said that.